बुद्धको शासन अन्त भइसकेपछि पनि आज अन्त भयो, भोलि आउने होइन, धेरै पछि आउँछ, 100 वर्षपछि, 200 वर्षपछि, 1000 वर्षपछि आउँछ.
But even after the end of one Buddha's shasan, another Buddha does not appear immediately. Another Buddha comes much later, like 100 years later or 200 years later or even 8,000 years later. And it is another separate Buddha who comes, not an incarnation of the previous Buddha, but another distinct Buddha. And during the in-between time, those who have already learned from Buddhas of the past are born, and practicing on the basis of their memory, they attain Pratyek Bodhi, and they are called Pratyek Buddhas. Now some people, having come to know of this new term, might even claim that their guru has become a Pratyek Buddha. However, Pratyek Buddhas only come during the in-between periods of Buddha sashans. And since the shasan of Shakyamuni Buddha is still extant right now, there cannot be any Pratyek Buddhas at this time. Secondly, as soon as someone attains Pratyek Bodhi, no matter the clothes, etc. that they were wearing, they automatically transform into the form of a bhikshu or monk in a miraculous way. So that is a Pratyek Buddha. No matter what they were wearing as they sat in practice, at the moment they attain Pratyek Bodhi, they automatically take on the form of a monk with shaven head and dressed in monk's robes. So, to the various Hindu gurus, please do not start saying that your attainment is Pratyek Bodhi. That would be nonsense talk. Then next comes Bodhisattvayan or Samyak Sambuddhayan. Bodhisattvayan or Samyak Sambuddhayan is the vehicle by which, as one practices progressively, one becomes a Buddha. It is also called Mahayan. And Mahayan claims to lead one to Buddhahood. And for Shakyamuni Buddha, who himself practiced Bodhisattvayan or Samyak Sambuddhayan, to not teach anyone the means and methods of Samyak Sambuddhayan would not only be surprising, but also without any basis of logic and reason. It would be illogical. Something would not be quite right. In Shravakyan schools like Theravada, Sarvastivada or Mahasangik, these means and methods of becoming a Buddha cannot be found. Only the name Samyak Sambuddha exists. So where did the Buddha teach what to practice and how to practice to become a Buddha? According to the Mahayana school, those teachings are the Mahayana. And I am well aware that Theravadins do not accept this. But where are these teachings in the Theravada then? Or are we to accept that he did not teach them at all? That he became a Buddha himself, but then he did not teach anyone else the means to become a Buddha as well. So where did he teach the method to become a Buddha?
अब थेरवाडमा चर्या पिटक भनी छ, तर त्यो त 5औं शताब्दीमा बुद्ध घोषले माथिको उत्तरी भेगका महायान आदि र विभिन्न चलेको विधि विधान ल्याएर बनाएको हो.
Now there is a text called Charya Pitak in the Theravada, but it was actually composed by Buddha Ghosh in the 5th century based on the works he collected from the prevailing Mahayana traditions in the northern regions. It did not exist originally in the Tripitak. When the Tripitak was originally written, which was during the reign of King Vatagamini, the Charya Pitak did not exist. It was added later by Buddha Ghosh in the 5th century, that is 500 or 600 years later. Thus, if Theravadins assert that the Buddha did not teach the Mahayana, then the question arises as to where then did he teach the Bodhisattvayan? Where can it be found? And if he did not teach Bodhisattvayan at all, then why did he not? And where can we find it written that the Buddha said that he did not teach Bodhisattvayan this time? So it is this teaching that is Mahayana. In the Advaya Vajra Sangraha, it says,
Mahayanam Chadvividam Mantranaya Paramitanaya Mantranaya Cheti. Mahayan pani dui kisimko cha. Paramitayan ra mantrayan.
Mahayanam cha dvividham Paramitanayo mantra nayascheti, meaning that Mahayana is of two types, Paramitayan and Mantrayan. Thus, Paramitayan is Mahayana and Mantrayan is also Mahayana. Now we cannot call the practice that currently exists in the Kathmandu Valley, looking at all the distortions and attenuations the tradition here underwent over 800 or 900 years of oppression that we have talked about before, we cannot call it Mantrayan anymore. And Mantrayan itself cannot be faulted by referring to this tradition here as it is now. And I have already previously explained why the tradition here came to its current state. And so now, what is Paramitayan? Since it is based on the sutras, it is also called Sutrayan. And what are sutras? For example, 8 of the 9 texts of the Navagrantha, or the collection of 9 texts of the present Newar tradition, are sutras. The Lankavatar Sutra, Gandavyuha Sutra, etc., these are sutras. And the method of practicing shamatha and vipassana based on these sutras is called Sutrayan or Paramitayan. But the Mahayana sutras are not limited to just these 8 texts in the Navagrantha collection. There are thousands of sutras which can still be found in the Tibetan language and the Chinese language. For example, the Gandavyuha Sutra of the Navagrantha is only one chapter of the Avatamsak Sutra. There are many chapters in Avatamsak Sutra, and the Gandavyuha Sutra is only one chapter of it. We do not have the Avatamsak Sutra here, but it can be found in the Chinese language. And some chapters of the Avatamsak Sutra have also been translated into Tibetan. And the methods of practicing shamatha and vipassana based on these sutras, such as the Lankavatar Sutra, is called Sutrayan. Zen Buddhadharma is popular all over the world nowadays, and many of you must have heard of it. Bodhidharma, who was the second son of a Brahmin king of Kanjivaram in southern India, traveled to Canton, holding the Lankavatar Sutra in his hands. It is said that he went to Canton on a bamboo plank through his miraculous powers, going from Rameshwaram up to Canton, and he was holding the Lankavatar Sutra in his hands. And Zen Buddhadharma is practiced in accordance with sutras like this Lankavatar Sutra and Pragyaparamita Sutra and the Vajrachedika Sutra, which is also a Pragyaparamita Sutra. Zen is called Chan Buddhism in China. The word Chan came from the word Dhyan in Sanskrit, and Jhan in Pali, and in Prakrit. And that same Chan Buddhism became Zen Buddhism when it went to Japan, and from there it was spread to the West where it became popular as Zen.
अब यतापट्टि जाउँ मन्त्रयान. मन्त्रयान के हो?
Now let's look at Mantrayan. What is Mantrayan? Another name for Mantrayan is Tantrayan, because just as there is a class of texts called sutras, there are texts called tantras, which are Thyasafus in Newari or Pechas in Tibetan, on which Tantrayan is based. Tantra is called Gyu in Tibetan. As I have already mentioned in an earlier episode, a practitioner of Tantrayan is not called a tantric, but rather a mantrina. The Hevajra Tantra and such refer to Tantrayan practitioners as mantrina or mantrin or mantradhar, and not as tantric. Hindus use the word tantric. They refer to the practitioners of Hindu Tantra as tantrics. In Buddhadharma, we practice Tantrayan or Mantrayan, and the correct term is mantrin. Tantra is the text or Thasafu or Pecha, such as the Hevajra Tantra, Kalachakra Tantra, etc. And the method is to practice shamatha and vipassana according to these Tantra texts. This yan is also called Guhya yan, Guhya meaning secret, because the practice is kept secret. The practice is kept secret not because it is something bad that needs to be hidden, but it should be kept secret for psychological reasons, so that the practice can become powerful. It is also called Upayayan, Upaya meaning skillful means, because it contains a myriad of skillful means. But just because it has a multitude of skillful means does not mean that shamatha or vipassana are abandoned, because all the skillful means will include the practice of shamatha or vipassana or a combination of shamatha and vipassana. Thus it is also called upayayan. And it is also called sahajayan. And why is it called sahajayan? Because its practice gives rise to sahajagyan, or co-emergent wisdom. As I have mentioned in a previous episode, the Hevajra Tantra says that just like how two sticks, when rubbed together, generate fire, the repeated practice of Utpatikram, or the creation stage, and Sampanna, or Nishpanna Kram, or the completion stage, generates the fire of Sahajagyan. And what is Sahajagyan? It is the nature of mind. The nature of mind is of course also Chitta, or mind, and not anything separate from it. But even an ordinary person has a mind. But Sahajagyan is realizing the nature of mind. And it is not that the Theravada Tripitaka does not have this at all. As I have mentioned before, it contains the verse,
Sababhasa chittam bhavetiti anusati thanena bahulikam yana dasana patilava sambatititi भनिसकेको छु
Sapabhasam chittam bhavetiti anusati thanena bahulikatam yana dasana patilabhaya samvatiti. This states that one should meditate on the luminous mind. In addition to this, the Prabhaswar Chitta, or luminous mind, is found mentioned in other places also in the Theravada Tripitaka. It can be found in other sections of the Anguttara Nikaya and is also found in the Digha Nikaya, where it asks, where is there no fire, air, water, nor long and short, good and bad? Where are these not found? The answer it says is, Viyana manidasanam anantam sabbato pabham, meaning in consciousness without feature, without end, luminous all around. This subject is nuanced, and although it is not elaborated in Theravada, it can be found there. In another verse in the Anguttara Nikaya, it says,
Pavasaram idam bhikave chittam tanchakho agantukyehi upakileshe upakillitham. He bhikshavo yo chitta prabhaswar cha.
Pavasaramidam bhikave chittam tanchakho agantukehi upakilesehi upakilithan. Meaning, O bhikshus, this mind is luminous, and this luminous mind is covered by adventitious emotional defilements. The luminous mind is called Ekal Silwal in Tibetan. The word agantuk here means that the emotional defilements are external and are not the mind's own nature. Then the verse continues, Pavasaramidam bhikkhave chittam tanchakho agantukehi upakilasehi vipamuttan, meaning that the luminous mind is in itself free from these adventitious defilements, and that it has always been free. So where is the practice of vipassana according to this view in the Theravada? Vajrayana is exactly the practice of vipassana based on this view. In Vajrayana, many methods of vipassana on the Prabhaswar Chitta, or luminous mind, are utilized. Then again, Ajahn Chah of Thailand, who is believed to be an arhat and who has already passed away in the meditation posture. And as I have talked about in earlier episodes, when a realized practitioner passes away, there will be signs such as relics being found after cremation, etc. And these signs were present when he passed. And a letter that he had written to one of his sick disciples, who was on his deathbed, raises some questions. He had written, when all the elements are dissolved after death, only the mind remains. Recognize that mind. It is the Buddha. Although Shakyamuni Buddha has died and gone, this Buddha never dies. He was a Theravada Ajahn, a monk from Thailand, but he wrote these instructions to his disciple. But of course one cannot recognize the nature of mind from just this, as one would not know what exactly to recognize. That is all detailed in Vajrayana. What is to be recognized and how to recognize it, and how to practice so that one can recognize it at the time of death. This is all found in Vajrayana. But these instructions are not given openly because it is also Guhyayan, or the secret vehicle. Thus, Vajrayan is the means and methods of practicing Vipassana on the Prabhaswar Chitta, or the luminous mind. Now the practitioners of Vajrayan, especially the Newar Vajrayanis here, may assume that they have no connection with Sutrayan. But if that was the case, then why is it that 8 out of the 9 texts of the Navagrantha are sutras? The Guhya Samaj Tantra is the only tantra in the collection. How would that have happened? In the Advaya Vajra Sangraha, Advaya Vajra clearly states that Sautantrik, Yogachar and Madhyamik are all Paramitayan. And Yogachar and Madhyamik are Vajrayan or Tantrayan or Mantrayan. What does this mean then? It means that in order to practice Tantrayan, one should have already gone through a thorough study as well as practice of Shamatha and Vipassana according to the Yogachar and Madhyamik views. It is only after this that one will be able to practice Shamatha and Vipassana according to Tantrayan. For someone who has no idea of what Madhyamik is or what Yogachar is, merely taking empowerments does not make them Vajrayan practitioners. They would have no idea of what they should be doing Shamatha and Vipassana on, and how they should be doing it. The Vipassana in Vajrayan is based upon Yogachar and Madhyamik. And what is the Madhyamik view? As I have mentioned earlier, it says in the Anguttara Nikaya itself that one should meditate on aniccato, or impermanence, anattato, or non-self, dukkhato, or suffering, and sunyato, or emptiness. This is in the Ekaka Nipat of the Anguttara Nikaya, where it is mentioned repeatedly. And what does meditate on sunyato, or emptiness, as mentioned here mean? That is what Madhyamik is. And something similar to the way Nagarjuna defined this subject can be found in the Patisambhida, but these days Theravadins do not refer to the Patisambhida at all. Thus, if one wants to practice Vajrayan properly, they need to understand the Madhyamik philosophy well. And to understand the Madhyamik philosophy, one needs to understand Yogachar first. And actually not only have understood them, but also have practiced accordingly. That is why the Hevajra Tantra clearly states that there should first be the study, instruction and practice of the Vaibhashik, meaning the Shravakyan view, followed by the study and practice of the Yogachar view, and then the study and practice of the Madhyamik view. And then only should one enter Tantrayan. This is clearly stated in the Hevajra Tantra.
श्रावज्ञान बद्रयान को जग हो.
Shravakyan is the foundation of Vajrayan. Vaibhashik is mentioned in the Hevajra Tantra as it is Shravakyan. And we could say Theravada instead of Vaibhashik as it is Shravakyan as well. Then after that, the Paramitayan, which includes Yogachar and Madhyamik, should be well practiced. Only then is one able to proceed into Tantrayan and truly practice the Shamatha and Vipassana of Tantrayan or Vajrayan. Those who do not understand this think that Vajrayan is limited to merely engaging in rituals such as ringing bells and making offerings. But that limited practice is not Vajrayan or Tantrayan. And if that form of practice is supposed to be Vajrayan, then that is not Buddhadharma. Thus, the 3 yans or vehicles are Shravakyan, Pratyek Buddhayan, and Bodhisattvayan. And Bodhisattvayan includes Paramitayan and Vajrayan. But since it is not possible for Pratyek Buddhayan to exist right now, the 3 yans are also considered to be Shravakyan, Paramitayan, and Vajrayan. Paramitayan is prevalent in countries like China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Shravakyan is more widespread in Thailand, Burma, Laos, Cambodia, southern Vietnam, and Sri Lanka. And Vajrayan is more prevalent in countries like Tibet, and in China and Japan to some extent, and in the Russian Buryat, Kalmykia, and Mongolia. So these are the 3 yan, or the 3 vehicles. We will end here for today.
Etat sadhana punnena सर्वे सर्वगता पदम प्राप्नुवन्तु जयन्तु च कुशलं कर्म वैरिरं जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि स्वरूपावर्तपूरित्वात् मोचयाम सर्वसत्त्वान् दुर्गमात् भवसागरात्।